Hey, this is one of the first of many different little videos that I will do to help go over some things that normally we would be doing in class. Um, these might help you with some of the different ideas in the different chapters. I got my buddy Freud here for this because we're going to talk a little bit about the different perspectives so that you can see how they work and how they make sense in a very practical way. So if you look at the tree that I had there in my list of term sheets or whatever, we're going to talk about the what I consider major branches in psych. One, psychoanalytic, Sigmund Freud, the first one. Behaviorist, humanistic, cognitive, and biological. All right, now you can split them up others. Different texts will split them in different ways, but these are really the five major perspectives. And people in these branches don't always agree with things. So let's just do a little bit of an overview just so you can see what I mean by the different ways that they would look at something interesting to all of us, mental illness. All right, so today let's pretend you are a psychologist. I am your patient. All right? And I'm to you and I say to you, oh, I just feel so sad. I have no energy. Nothing makes me happy. I am not interested in anything. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to eat. I have trouble sleeping, but I'm also really, really tired. And sometimes I even think about just dying. I don't, whatever. So what does that all sound like? Sounds like that could be symptoms of depression. Now, of course, it could be some other things, which later in the semester we will talk about. But let's just, for the sake of argument, say that yes, I'm depressed. Now what? What do you do for me? What could you do to help? All right, there isn't just one way to treat mental illness. It depends. And it comes from the way you treat it, depends on, as the therapist, why you believe the person is having those symptoms in the first place. All right, so if I think that someone is having depression or anxiety or whatever because of XYZ, I want to treat them in a way that fits that. All right. Perspectives see that all differently. So let's try this. All right, we'll start with my guy Freud. If you were Sigmund Freud, you are going to be on the psychoanalytic branch, and you would be thinking that I am depressed or whatever because of something in my unconscious. Psychoanalytic view focuses on unconscious issues. All right, the unconscious is a part of our personality, a part of our psyche that's underneath that can't really rationally get to. And we can't understand what it is, and we can't really think about it. So it's something under the surface. Many times it is something dealing with two motives that we often repress, sex and aggression. So maybe I have repressed sexual or aggressive urges and they're under the surface and I can't express them and it's coming out as a depression. Or sometimes it's things that happen in development. Maybe as a kid, I don't know, I had a problem with something like potty training. And so I've repressed those memories, repressed that issue, and now I'm depressed as an adult. Right? I have some unconscious issues with things that have happened to me when I was younger. So what do? The goal of a psychoanalytic psychologist is to treat it by getting at the unconscious. We need to figure out what that is. So we might use techniques like dream analysis, ink blots, hypnosis. These are all things designed to analyze and get at the unconscious reason for the problem. If we can get that up into the consciousness, we can deal with it. That's one approach. Okay, bye, Sigmund. All right, let's say, though, I go to a behavioral psychologist. Now what? Why am I depressed from a behavioral point of view? Behaviorists focus on learning and experience and the environment. I've learned to be depressed. How? Well, it could be a couple of different ways. Could be I grew up in an environment where other people were depressed. Maybe my mom was that way, and I've copied that. That's the way I've acted. Maybe I go to work and I sit and I cry all day, and what happens? Somebody gives me attention. And so I'm doing, again, not that I'm not manipulating, but maybe I've just learned this behavior and it gets me somewhere. Or maybe this is just part of maybe I don't have any skills. Maybe I don't have good social skills. And so those are other reasons why maybe I'm depressed. So all of it is dealing with behaviors. So what would you do? Teach me new behaviors. We need to learn new behaviors, find better role models, learn different ways of acting and rewarding myself for those things. Learning that some social skills or getting myself out there. And if I'm anxious about that, teaching me to learn how to do those things without so much anxiety. I have a friend here. This is my dog. There you go. Emotional support dogs. That might be a behavioral way too, helping the person to learn to relax by relating to an animal. Okay. From a humanistic view, why am I depressed and what would you do? Well, the humanists they focus on what we call self-actualizing. The idea that we are all born with certain talents, abilities to fulfill a purpose. We need meaning in our lives. The words that we would use as a humanist would be things like self-esteem, fully functioning people, authentic, all right? So here's what could happen. Let's say that as a young child, I had artistic talent. Okay, I don't, so, okay, but let's hypothetically say that. And I draw and I love it and I get a lot of pleasure, satisfaction, and meaning out of that. Let's say I get to be in high school and I start to think about what do I want to go to college for? Do I want to go to what do I want to do in my life? And and I say, hey, I want to be an artist. What is somebody going to say? Never going to make any money. So I decide, all right, fine, I'll ignore that. I'll do it as a hobby maybe. And I'll do something else. Maybe I'll become an accountant or something, an accountant. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that, but it isn't me. And so I'm not happy. I'm not being who I am. And it's not always something that obvious and blatant like a career. This is personality traits or other things, or sexuality or other issues. Maybe I feel that the people in my life want me to be a certain way. Maybe they're outwardly saying it, maybe it's inwardly saying it, or they give me that impression, but I'm not happy because I'm not who I am. I don't have that meaning. And so a humanist will use open, reflective techniques to get a person to understand what really is meaningful to them. Who are they? What do they want to do? Or, trying to please themselves, or at least be authentic, to be who they really are, rather than just play a role that others have given them. All right, cognitive psychologists. Cognition refers to thinking. So cognitive branch of psychology focuses on thought patterns. They say that mental health issues like anxiety and depression are coming from faulty, irrational thinking, delusional thinking. A lot of times it takes the form of what we call catastrophic thinking, like this. Well, I'm kind of sad today because I failed my psych test. And if I fail my psych test, that means that I'm going to fail the class probably. And if I fail this class, then I'm not going to be able to take the next course and I won't be able to finish my degree. And not only that, I'm losing all this money because I don't pass my classes and I have to drop out of school. And then I won't be able to get a job. And not only that, nobody's going to love me because who loves a loser who's failing everything that I do? And I'll probably live by myself or maybe with my dog in a van down by the river the rest of my life. Catastrophic thinking. You take one thing that maybe is anxiety producing, maybe kind of upsetting, and blow it up into the worst possible thing. And not only that, you're globalizing it. It's not just, oh, this test is a bad thing. I did poorly on a test, but I'm a bad person. All right, so that kind of thinking is obviously going to make you depressed. If I fail a test and I really believe that that means I'm never going to have a good life ever, of course I'm going to be depressed. So cognitive psychologists take the approach of trying to change that thinking, getting a person to recognize those negative self-thoughts that are going over and over, and then coming up with a way of changing them and challenging them. Why does one failed test mean that I'm never going to get a job? All right, that's irrational. Last branch is the biological one. And this would include neurology and some of that. And this is where a lot of today's psychiatry is really focused. But they're taking the approach that mental health issues are chemical, physical, based on something. So maybe from genetics, I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. So we'll talk about neurotransmitters, especially ones like serotonin and norepinephrine and dopamine are not maybe balanced correctly, and that's changing my mood. So what would be the obvious treatment for that? Medications. Psychotropic drugs. If I'm suffering from depression, an antidepressant that's going to alter the serotonin levels in my brain, in theory, to help me feel better. All right. So 5 perspectives, 5 approaches, 5 different reasons, etiologies for why somebody believes that I'm have a mental health issue. Now the question is, which is correct? And the answer is all or none. It depends. Everybody is different. There's no absolutes here. We could have people depressed for 5 different reasons, and 5 different treatments would be appropriate. It depends on the skill of the therapist, on the reasons and the personality and the issues in that patient. And many times, maybe more often than not, it's more than one thing. For example, you might have a person who is chemically predisposed. Maybe genetically they have mental health issues in their family. Maybe they have a predisposition to things, and then something happens in their life that triggers it. And then they tend to do that thinking that's negative, or maybe they have behaviors that are not healthy. So all of it can work together. And so this is one reason why a lot of psychology, even though there is science behind it, understanding the right approach can sometimes be a little bit of an art. Understanding, learning, and thinking. So it takes practice. There's no absolutes. So that's why when we talk about a lot of things in this course, there's often not one absolute correct answer. There may be other ways of looking at things. So for me and Freud, we're going to sign off, and my doggie, Chrissy, over here, she says goodbye. Bye. All right. See you next time.